All right. Thank you once more, and hello to everyone. I'm Henry Farmer, currently working as an operations engineer at Circular Carbon with the Technology and Operations Department, and I'll be presenting Circular Carbon today. I'll be talking a bit about our founding story, and I'll also present our business model, which is dubbed Carbon Hub Formula. I would also talk about production plant, which is situated in Hamburg, and also about how we produce biochar and the diverse applications of biochar that we have, and also some research projects that we are currently working on. Yeah. So, not to waste too much of time, yeah. So, Circular Carbon was founded in 2018 by Lasse from Norway, Julian from England, Pike from Finland, and Felix from Germany. Within the periods of 2010, 2014, they were involved in gasification projects in East Africa, where they transformed maize cobs to produce electricity into those areas. So biochar was kind of like produced incidentally, or I'd say inadvertently, because that wasn't the main product as a byproduct. And then they realized that they saw that a banana plant or tree started growing in the pile of biochar. So Pike made this statement when he said, when we saw this one banana plant shoot out of the resulting pile of biochar, their interest in biochar really peaked. So that was literally the genesis of circular carbon. And then they started, going into more research and understanding biochar, the diverse applications, and also the market. And Pike and Felix developed the concept of circular carbon together also in Sweden in university. Yes, so currently we have 31 employees with four core departments. So our office is in just a moment, let me get a pointer. So our office is in Straubing, that is where Circular Carbon started. And then we currently have our headquarters in Hamburg, that is in the north of Germany, and that's where our production plant is situated also. Circular Carbon is a member of Econex. So Econex is a management holding company that supports companies whose business models align with the UN sustainability development goals, and Circular Carbon is one of the daughter companies. So basically, what do we do as Circular Carbon? We convert biomass into biochar, into energy, and into carbon removal certificates. That is like Circular Carbon in a nutshell, I would say. Um, Yeah, so this is our team currently. We are quite a small and growing team, and also a diverse team. We have colleagues all over the world, from France, from Lebanon, from South Africa, from India, from Ghana, obviously me. And we also have on the right side, this is the technology and operations team, the team that is involved in um, research and development into the diverse applications of biochar, into plant optimization, process optimization, yes, basically everything in relation to biochar. So our mission stated clearly, we work towards a post-carbon society for generations to come. Our vision also here stated, we enable atmospheric carbon reduction through innovative technology, generating clean energy, biochar, and carbon removal at the industrial scale. So our business model, that is the carbon hub formula. So the carbon hub formula is basically, in short terms, or the description for the carbon hub formula is we transforming diverse forms of biomasses into biochar, into carbon credits, and into clean energy. Now, the markets, or the diverse applications of biochar that we are mostly focused in are into agriculture, to animal products, substrates, and materials, and also the retail industry. Carbon removal certificates already mentioned, one of our core valuable products. And then clean energy that we produce is we normally produce it in the form of steam. That same steam can be used to produce hot water that can be integrated into the district heating network. And the steam can also be used to generate electricity. All depends on the customer request, basically. So this slide also shows the diverse forms of feedstocks or biomasses that we've been working on, and we are still doing research and developments in developing new pyrolysis or biomass concepts, biochar concepts for future projects or so on. And cocoa shells are one of the intensively studied biomasses from our side. Olive pomace is also like a very interesting one. Coffee husk, the diverse forms of like woods and stuff. In Germany, there's a classification system for waste wood. So we have the A1 and A2 waste wood, the A3 and A4 waste wood. So the A1, A2 waste wood are more of the recyclable waste wood that are not heavily contaminated. And then A3, A4 are the hard to recycle, almost non-recyclable. Normally, they are incinerated or landfilled. So we're also doing a lot of research and development in these sites to see how we can transform these non-recyclable waste woods or waste streams into valuable products, into other carbon hubs. Those are some of our main focuses. Our technology in a nutshell, so we have like a hotline concept where we define our basic technology when it comes to a pyrolysis or a carbon hub. That's what we call it. And of course, there are adjustments or alignments that can happen based on the diverse forms of the biomasses and also the type or the quality, the product quality or the type of biochar that needs to be produced. So for a normal feeding system, um, the, the, the main aim of the feeding system is, of course, to transport the biomass from one point to the pyrolysis system. And of course, it's normally made out of like the silo where it stores the biochar. It can be a scale. And then there's also the option of a pre-treatment process. Also depend like maybe shredding, it can be reducing of moisture, it can be anything, all based on like the requests from customers or the type of biochar that we would want to produce. So we have the pyrolysis system also. So for circular carbon, we are normally using the slow pyrolysis technology. So we're running around temperatures between 500 to 600 degrees approximately. Residence time approximately also 30 to 40 minutes, depends on external factors. But we are always within the range of slow pyrolysis, I would say. And so after the pyrolysis, when the biomass is transformed into char, we have the biochar handling. So the biochar handling is where we basically having a cooling system where we try to reduce the temperature of the biochar, and then the biochar is being transferred. We have an automated big bag filling station or technology that fills the biochar into the big bags, and after that, the big bags are either sold to customers or stored appropriately. And so in the pyrolysis system, like we have the pyrolysis gases, which is also like a valuable product. So the pyrolysis gases, in our case, making up of the condensable and the non-condensable parts, are transferred to the combustion chamber. And in the combustion chamber, thermal energy is being generated, and then it's used to generate steam. So it goes to the steam generation system. And in the steam generation system, that is where the steam can be used to generate hot water for the district heating system, or even used to generate electricity, or just process steam for industrial applications for the customer, I would say. So circular carbon, we are a sustainable company. So whatever that we emit, or we are very mindful about the emissions. So we have a flue gas system that normally makes sure that like any form of flue gas that is generated during the process is treated before it's being emitted into the atmosphere. So that is like the main focus of our flue gas system. And so now I'm going to, this is our first pioneer plant, our first industrial plant that is located in Hamburg. We call it Hamburg 1, Hamburg 1, located at Hamburg Federpointe, with a throughput of approximately 1 hour and 1 ton per hour. So our customer here is a cocoa processing company, and what they do is that they send us the waste products, that is the cocoa shells from their process. They send it to us directly through this bridge. So this bridge interconnects us with our customer, eliminating the need for transport costs and also transport burden. So we receive it directly through the bridge, and then we transform it into biochar. Now, we also send also the process steam that is generated in this system, we send it through these pipes. So we also receive condensate from their side after their industrial applications, and we transform this condensate also into process steam, and then we send it back to them. So this is more of like a material and energy efficient system um, between the two, I would say between the two parties. So annual production capacities, normally biomass production around 8,000 tons per annum, and the biochar around 3,300 tons per annum. And normally we target like a moisture content of around 25 percent during the biochar handling units where I showed previously. So we'll also talk shortly about biochar, like how we produce biochar and the diverse applications of biochar that we are into, and other collaborations and works, long-term soil trials and all of that. But firstly, we define the form of biochar that we can offer or we can produce in raw biochar. So that is biochar that has not been post-treated in any form. And basic biochar, you have a little bit of push treatment. It can be, it can be shredded. It can be like ground to specific, based on specific applications from the customer, and also a biochar product that can be also, formed or generated based on specific applications. So that is how we classify the different forms of biochar that we can produce. So for biochar applications, like I said, there are different long-term trials and applications that we are kind of like running to understand biochar and its long-term effects on the soil, on like different kind of markets and all of that. So this is an example where we're working with a farmer in the southern part of Germany, and then biochar is applied in a stable as an animal bedding. So you see it, this table here has a bedding, and then what it does is that like through the normal daily activities of the cattle, like their normal daily activities, there's excreta, there's everything. So the biochar helps absorb the moisture, urine and ammonia, and it helps to make the bedding also drier, and it reduces odor. So and then right after that, the the biochar, the biochar with the straw and all of that is also transferred to this place where it is co-composted. So in this co-composting kind of like trials, it's mixed also with manure and other stuff to co-compost. Normally, co-composting also takes like a period, but the biochar helps to accelerate this co-composting period. And then one of the benefits is also it helps to reduce the leaching of the essential nutrients to the ground due to its diverse properties. So and after co-composting, this co-compost that is formed can directly be applied in agriculture, like right in the soil. And of course, biochar will do its magic in regenerating the soil and causing it to be better. So these are, for instance, long-term trials that we are studying the effects of the biochar on the soil and the beddings, and we are trying to gather as much information and data on the long term to help in process optimization and also product development and all of that. So this is also another cool composting biochar field trials. This is actually also in Hamburg, the north of Germany. So here we also have like biochar, which is being compared with compost at different percentages, like a biochar 20% and at 30%. And then also long-term soil trials to be able to see the effects on the long term on this on the soil, how biochar influences the properties of the soil and the benefits that we get on it, percentage-wise or proportions-wise. So these are also long-term trials that we are continually working on when it comes to agriculture applications. So this was just like a curious gardener who was just like curious about biochar. So we gave him some biochar, and then he decided to do some in-house trials, planted biochar with cucumber, biochar without cucumber, try to compare them, and then he sent us like results and some pictures that he got like a higher yield when he used biochar, and also made a comparison between conventional fertilizers and biochar. So these are beetroots, and you see it basically that you don't really see a big difference, which is quite good because if biochar can also get those kind of, I mean, produce yields in comparison to like non-sustainable and expensive conventional fertilizers, then it's also like a good sign. So we are doing more of these forms of trials, studies, and all of that to understand the diverse effects of biochar in different applications, I would say. Okay, I'll now introduce some research projects that we are working on, also pertaining biochar from different directions. So the first one is going to be self-ignition. So self-ignition is basically the spontaneous combustion due to oxidative reactions in stored biochar. So every biochar has the tendency to self-ignite. And we as a company, we know that, okay, since this tendency is applicable to any form of biochar, which we are trying our best to understand the properties, the causes to be able to like keep it at bay and to control it during production and all of that so that these problems do not escalate because it's definitely also a hazard for any form of biochar. So the causes can be unstable pyrolysis conditions, maybe sometimes during startup or during shutdown processes. And also, of course, the consequences, you have safety risk, which because of like fires and all of that. And then the most also important thing is the loss of the carbon sequestration value because you lose your carbon when there's combustion, right? Which you don't want that. And at the end of the day, it also affects your product quality, which you don't want. So that is why it is quite important to study self-ignition. So this is just a controlled test that we made ourselves, and you see the biochar ignites, and you don't want this to happen when you store your biochar or when you transport it to a customer or a client. Yeah, so how are we trying to mitigate the steps to keep, I would say, self-ignition at bay? So this is like a basic test that we do to study biochar self-ignition. So this is an experimental setup according to these norms. So this is an oven. This is the inner chamber of an oven. And in the oven, we have thermocouples. We have T1 and T3 that basically control the temperature of the oven itself. And then we have T2. This is like a basket. We have different volumes where the specific biomass being tested is put in that basket. And then we heat it within a long period of time to be able to, to extrapolate or understand the self-ignition temperatures. So this, for instance, was done with wood pellets. And when we look at the temperature profiles here, for instance, we are able to see stable heating because for T1 and T3, that is the um, oven temperature, we see that it rises, simultaneously also with the biomass temperatures, and then it also like decreases almost at the same time. But when we compare it to the temperature profiles here, we see a distinction where we realize that at a certain point, we see this rapid escalation in the temperatures of the biomass in this basket. So it tells us that at this point, of course, you have a form of exothermic reactions due to combustion that is occurring, which is rapidly increasing the temperatures of the biomass in that basket, telling us that, okay, there's self-ignition occurred. So with all this data, we are able to extrapolate and analyze to be able to find the right self-ignition temperatures so that you can be able to store your biochar according to, that information to hinder self-ignition occurring. So how do we do that? So in basic steps, for instance, like the self-ignition temperature at different volumes are tested, and then we can also extrapolate the self-ignition temperatures at higher volumes. Sorry, I'm using for an example is like using the graph from here, and then after we classify them according to the UN transportation guidelines, anyone interested can look into this guidelines, and it helps us to be able to know how to store the biochar and then how to also transport the biochar. So, biochar as a feed additive, this is also another research project that we are working on alongside with the CREM Institute, that is the Circular Resource Engineering Management Institute at the Hamburg University of Technology. So the main objective here is that we want to be able to unlock the full potential of biochar, not to be just used as for medicinal purposes for livestock, but to be able um, to make the trace minerals that are yet deficient in livestock nutrition, like selenium, molybdenum, zinc, and copper, and to make them bioavailable for livestock nutrition, so that Biostar has this kind of like dual, I would say, function. And so that is the innovative approach behind this whole project. The challenges are the toxicity and then the complexity, especially when it comes to formulation and making these minerals bioavailable for the animals. How can we do this? This is just a basic, this is a scheme that shows like the concept, the whole circular economy concept, where the biomasses are being pyrolyzed with optimized, enhancing optimizity to be able to make these trace minerals bioavailable, preparation and formulation. And now we have this kind of the product, and then the product releases these trace minerals to the livestock. And then the from the manure of the livestock, you have the carbon, which is still embedded in the manure of the livestock. When it's applied directly to their surroundings, for instance, their grazing lands and all of that, you have a carbon sink due to the carbon. And then the plan is to be able to take biomasses from surrounding farms, from like the prunings and the agricultural residues, and use this same biomass and then pyrolyze it and make this product, so that you have a sort of like a circular economy. So these are some of the innovative approaches we are trying to look in when it comes to biochar. The last one here is PAHs, which I guess everyone knows here, the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, which are very problematic and toxic. And of course, due to the classifications of biochar by the EBC classifications and other classifications, when you have to sell them, it is very it's crucial to be able to monitor the PAHs. The problem is that um, the conventional detection methods like GCMS and HPLC are costly and time consuming. So we wanted to develop like a fast and low cost, a rapid method, so that we can be able to like control or test the pH during production, so that we can be able to adjust or make process optimization and not need to wait for long waiting times for results to be able to know what to do with the biochar. So this is also like concepts that we are trying to develop, trying to test different extraction methods and all of that. And yeah, we have tested also with like naphthalene, being quite successful, and we are working on how to develop also new methods for the other forms of the PAHs, I would say. Yes, so circular carbon will be present at the Biochar Summit 25 on 10th and 11th June at Brussels. So yeah, we are always open for connections. Anyone who is interested to connect with us. I mean, for collaborations, for funding calls, anything, we are always open for an exchange. So yeah, anyone interested just to collaborate with us, we are always open. You can also message Sebastian. Sebastian is the head of technology. These are his details, and yeah, we are we are open for exchanges, contacts, and yeah, what have you. Okay, thank you very much for listening, and yeah.
Thank you very much, Henry. Always good to hear it. I mean, Circular Carbon is doing quite a lot for a biochar business in terms of research. So very, very interesting things you showed us there. You have a couple of questions in the chat, but I had one of my own. So my question would
Okay.
be, um, you talked a lot about how you can adjust your production to produce different kinds of biochars. So how flexible are you in actually changing your production temperature and your residence time? Because I mean you can theoretically change a lot, but in practice that's often a bit tricky.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So, I mean, we are we are starting basically from like a scale up model where we are trying to, find um, the right optimal parameters and how they influence biochar. So how are we doing that? Like try to do it, like I said, on the lab scale level to be able to find these kind of trends and correlations. And then also, and of course, you have different technologies. Maybe when it's, I don't know, it's a screw reactor or a rotary clean reactor, you might have different results based on the process parameters that you might change. So we are in that phase of trying to develop it step by step from the lab scale and then try to like scale it up so that we and also we want to also find more diverse ways to influence the process parameters because like you said it's not very easy sometimes and flexible as when you take it to the industrial level but and we're also trying to do this with also automation concepts. That's something that we are working on also with some universities. That's also some of the research projects that is in the pipeline. So yeah, those are that's how we are I would say we are approaching this topic, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, I will quickly, we have to quickly go through the question, but last question for myself, just because it's always interesting. Um, so can you say, tell us a bit about the ratio between your income streams? So you said you get certificates, biogas sales, and energy. So what's the like approximate ratio you get from this? Is it a third each, or is energy very important for this concept?
Sebastian, do you want to answer this?
Yeah, I can do that. Hello, everyone.
Also,
Yeah, at the moment, our biggest income stream is actually biochar in connection with carbon credits. And yeah, energy is, I would roughly say it's like 20% of our income. But of course, yeah, energy is always like it's known, right? It's you can everyone knows steam and hot water, and it's good to sell, right? Or electricity. But with biochar, it's always a bit difficult, of course, to find a market. It's a bit fluctuative, right? Even though it's a higher income stream. Hopefully, this has answered the question.
perfect answer. Thank you, Sebastian, to jump in. Um, so I will now just select a couple of questions from the chat. So Sven Jensen was asking, what is your impression? How important is the integration of a device turning waste heat into electric power for the rollout of biochar projects in the market? Do you have any insights into, or do you get customer requests regarding this?
Yeah, I would say yes, definitely. I mean, a lot of these heavy industries, so I mean, the heating industry in Germany is also trying to decarbonize, so which is quite good. So definitely, there's that request to be able to bring these green concepts. So, of course, when we are using pyrolysis gases to generate steam or electricity or integrate it into the district heating network, it has always been and I would say an interesting or yeah, an interesting like request from different, I would say, customers or clients. Yeah.
Paula was asking, is there an active market for using biochar in animal feed in Germany or in Europe?
This is a very difficult question. um, I would I wouldn't say active, but I think it's developing with time because the regulations are very strict. I think you know this, Christian. They are very, very strict, and that is why I mean we are trying to get also into this market because I think it is the market with the highest revenue, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, the regulations are strict. That one definitely, but there's always the potential, and that is why we also want to understand more and dive more into this direction. I would say.
Yeah, it's definitely not an easy market. And
Yeah.
the last
Sorry,
question,
Henry,
huh?
I,
Sorry.
can I ask you something else about the market? I would like to know, in your experience, which is the most open market for using the biochar? Is it is for agriculture or for the animal feed, or in your experience, it would be more agriculture, maybe?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I think the agriculture market is so far, I would say, out maybe the biggest, but I think the most open to biochar because I think that is where the I'll say the impact and the results are clearly visible, or it's kind of like growing with time. So yeah, I'd say the agricultural market.
Okay, thank you.
And the last question before we jump into the second presentation, because I think it's important for everyone. Do you have a tip how you can suppress self-ignition in your stored biochars?
Do I have a what?
Do you have a tip to anyone how to suppress self-ignition?
In your process?
Yeah, in stored biochar.
I installed biochar. Hmm. The first, okay, the first tip that I would say is during the production, make sure you have a very efficient cooling system. That would help. Yeah, that would actually help a lot. Yeah, and that's I think the most important tip that I can say. Yeah.
And otherwise, you can always just fill it up 100% with water and hope for the best.
Then how will you try?